Hey beauties, so I've got another fantastic episode of Focus and Fist TV, so I really hope you're going to enjoy this one as I speak to Linda Vernon, who's actually a physiotherapist but is delving into the world of functional medicine. So for anybody who's ever suffered with any long-term illnesses or ailments, there's going to be some really valuable tips and discussions that go on in this session, so I really hope you enjoy it. But this is something that I'm so passionate about, is really allowing people to do the work to heal themselves, to live healthier lifestyles. And it really does start with stuff that you can do. It doesn't have to be hard, it can be simple. So all I ask for you today is to just go now and click the share button, because I think there's some really great content on this video. So go now, click the share button. I would really appreciate it. And a lot of the things that we talked about in the session are going to be below in the show notes, so do check those out. But I really hope you enjoy this as much as I do, and we always love to get your comments. So if you have any comments or questions or want to connect with Linda, again, those links are in the show notes. Leave us a comment, and we can't wait to hear what you think of this one. Enjoy. Huge welcome to Linda Vernon, who is speaking to today, and please excuse my DJ headphones, but technical issues. So I'm going to dive into what Linda's speciality is, but I just wanted to talk about how we first met, because it was about 7 years ago. Was it baby massage?
Yeah, we had briefly met at spinning. You were my favourite spinning instructor a year or two before that. Yeah. And then it was baby yoga, I think.
Yes. Yeah. And then after that, you came on to boot camp, and then we've kind of kept in touch ever since, haven't we? So Linda's background is in physiotherapy, right?
That's right, yes.
Yeah. So, but the reason that I wanted to introduce her to you guys is because I've been seeing a shift in her direction, and she's getting into the wonderful world of functional medicine. So can you just share a little bit of your background and your story, and what's kind of brought you across this journey and the shift in your direction?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been a physio for over 20 years. I've been mostly NHS based, and for the last 13 or so of those, I've been working as an advanced practitioner. So all my work really is diagnostic, it's signposting, it's working out what's wrong with complex patients and sending them for investigations, and then sending them to see other specialists, surgeons or rheumatologists, or to my colleague physios who treat people. I don't really treat people anymore. And going back to my childhood, before I ever did any of this, before I became a physio, I was really interested in more holistic health. I was one of those kids. I used to make my own face packs, and I used to use bicarbonate of soda to brush my teeth. I didn't use toothpaste. Very natural products, and I used to burn essential oils and drink herbal teas, and then I was really interested in aromatherapy at one stage, and my mum said to me, you know, you've got all this interest in complementary therapies, why don't you go and get yourself a mainstream medical qualification, do medicine or do physio or something, and you can come back and revisit your aromatherapy and things that maybe didn't have as much science behind them at the time and weren't as established. So couple of years after I qualified, so nearly 20 years ago, I managed to get on the first aromatic medicine course in a British uni. So just after I moved over here, studied aromatic medicine. So that was clinical aromatherapy. Did it for a while, did it until I started my current job, which I've been in for 13 years now. And then got carried away with mainstream medicine. I was really in the zone of sending people for scans, sending people for x-rays, and perhaps trying to be too mechanistic about it, trying to reduce it to the structures of the body at fault.
And do you think that was because that's the way you are trained in a medical setting and in a medical surrounding, that's what you're involved with?
Yeah, it is. And you know, despite that, we all clinicians, all doctors, physios, nurses, we all know that the mind plays a big role in the function of the body and the wellness of the body. And we know that other factors like lifestyle and nutrition and exercise and resilience and emotional well-being. We know all those things play a part, but traditionally we've never been that well trained to do anything about it. So we can often see it, but we don't necessarily have the skills to do much with it. And really about sort of 3-4 years ago, I was going through quite a stressful situation in my life, and I discovered mindfulness. And I say discovered, I'd heard about it a few years before. I'd read a fab book on Buddhism for mothers when I was when we first met at yoga. I was reading it around then when my eldest was a baby, and I'd kind of had this idea in my head that mindfulness and meditation and things were something that were a luxury I would get into one day when I've got time. So that was, when I finish my master's, when the kids are a bit older, when when I'm in a different job. And of course, the thing about mindfulness and meditation is it creates time. So it's actually much more of a priority when you think you have less time.
Yes.
So that sort of sparked the shift in me, really. That once I couldn't open myself up to the whole world of living more mindfully, it then made me realize that the work I was doing, I had to be more open-minded about the work I do as well. And I had to not just acknowledge that people's stress levels and lifestyles and social circumstances impact their health and well-being, but to actually equip myself with some skills to do something about it. And that's kind of what sparked the last 3 years of massive learning and massive shifts and lots of exciting stuff ahead in the future.
Yes, this is what I've been watching it, and it gets me excited. So for anybody who doesn't know or understand what functional medicine is, can you give us a brief outline in layman's terms so that we can get a clear understanding of, or the audience can get a clear understanding of what it's about?
So functional medicine, it's kind of exactly what it says on the tin, really. It's looking at the functions of the body and whether they are performing optimally or not. And it's a sort of a system of healthcare that looks at going upstream to find the root causes of illness. And it's particularly useful when it comes to more chronic problems, more long-standing conditions. And it doesn't matter whether that's pain, which is the area I work in, or whether it's mental health, depression, diabetes, autoimmune diseases, all these conditions that we consider to be chronic or long-term or persisting conditions. When you work your way back upstream and look at how someone's body is functioning and breaking down those functions, you start to identify where there might be areas for improvement that can contribute to the outcome of the condition, really. And there's people out there who have, turned their type 2 diabetes around with lifestyle, reversed autoimmune disease, cured themselves of depression with the help of, there's a fabulous psychiatrist in New York who treats most of her patients with depression and anxiety without any medication at all. And so there's lots of people out there in scattered, really, who are helping people to cure these conditions or to at least improve their symptoms, not by sticking an elastoplast on, but by addressing the root cause of the condition.
Well, see, this is the thing. This is such a huge paradigm shift from Western medicine to be, let's treat this with a pill, let's treat it with this. Now, you're looking at how you can apply this in a clinical setting, so within hospitals and GPs, and it is just such that huge shift. How is, what are the obstacles that you've come up against so far with implementing this into mainstream?
The biggest obstacle is probably time, because I'm as a clinician, I'm trying to embrace the approach of working upstream, but I'm also as a professional who networks with a lot of other people, I'm trying to really promote the new paradigm as a better way of working. And there's a lot of people out there who are doing the same. I mean, Dr. Chatterjee on the BBC, Doctor House, fantastic program. It's getting it out into the public eye. But in his program, he's seeing people in their own homes and he's visiting them on and off and staying in contact for a month or more. And your average GP has 10 minutes. In my clinic, I have 40 minutes to assess somebody, which is, magic compared to a GP consultation. But to get to those root causes, you really have to probe a lot deeper than we are used to probing. And really, it's about perhaps using less of the tick box approach that we traditionally use in healthcare, and actually just opening up to listening to the patient's story, to listening to somebody's story about their childhood and what environmental toxins they might have been exposed to, and what their diet was like as a child, whether they were breastfed or born by cesarean, or what their diet's like now, what stresses are in their life, all those areas that really take a lot of time and sort of deep listening to allow someone's story to unfold, to pick out those root causes, and then know what to address. So I think that's one of the biggest factors. I don't think there's a barrier in the sense that people don't believe it or want to embrace it. I think there are loads of clinicians out there who are saying this really makes sense. And there's loads of patients who are saying, I don't want to take tablets anymore. I've had enough of adding a tablet for every symptom and then adding another tablet for the side effects of the tablets. So I don't think there's a real obstacle in the sense that people don't want it. I think everybody knows that we need to get to a state where we're promoting well-being and health rather than treating illness. But it's about getting the message out there and trying to get a few champions on board, really, who are in a position of influence, who can help to spread the word.
That's it. And I think within the world that I'm in, because I do see a lot of changes are happening, but for you to hear you say as you're dealing with patients on a daily and weekly basis, to see that actually it is happening within our local communities and people that you're seeing regularly. So that's I think is a huge shift. So what do you see? How can we bring this in more? I mean, you talked about having champions and having people that can speak out in the media and Dr. Chatterjee and things like that. But what is it going to take for, at the end of the day, it comes down to NHS policies and procedures. What do you see for the future of that?
Well, there's actually already a lot of work going on in the NHS. There's a lot of promotion of things like social prescribing, which is addressing things like community and loneliness. I mean, loneliness is considered to be, and evidence has shown that it is as damaging to our health as smoking.
Wow.
And it's a big factor in things like addiction, but it's also a factor in other chronic disease. And there's actually quite a bit of work going on in the NHS to try and look at how we can empower communities and how we can encourage people to address things like lack of cooking skills or lack of knowledge about nutrition. It's not happening as widely as I'd like to see it just yet, but it's definitely a movement, and it's on the rise. One of the things I've done, and I've taken a sort of a pause over the summer break with kids off school, was to set up a monthly meetup for local clinicians in Blackpool and Fylde and anyone who wants to go on, really, promoting functional medicine through a fantastic international resource called Functional Forum. And that's where I first discovered that it wasn't just complementary health professionals or fitness professionals who were embracing this approach. It was actually mainstream medical professionals. And that was through the Functional Forum, which runs a monthly meeting in the States. And Dr. Chatterjee has ran them in London so far. And I went to the one in January in London, and they're broadcast live. So I tried to get some people to meet together locally to see if we could watch the stream from the States, but then work out how we could apply those principles and use that knowledge and information and take it forward. So that's something that I'm going to revive again in September once kids are back to school, and I'm starting a new NHS job as well. I've got a secondment post for a year. And I think it's just, social media is brilliant. It's just about getting the message out there and putting as much information in under people's noses as possible. I've got a website coming live hopefully in about a month. And I'm gonna blog regularly. I'm gonna make sure that I constantly feed useful bits of information through it as well. So.
Sounds fantastic, because it gets me really excited. I mean, I started when I first started to delve into nutrition, and the more I'd read on it and the powers behind, because it is, for me, with what I teach, it's the very sort of basic starting points to build, better health and well-being. But I do come into contact a lot of times with people who, like you say, have these chronic issues, who are taking medication. So what would you say should be the first point of call for them if they're not getting the support that they want from their GP or their clinician, whoever that might be? What would be your advice as you're in the system to where should they go?
So I guess at the end of the day, the GP is really their first port of call, and I think the more patients who go to GPs and say, I don't want to take these drugs if I can avoid them. Some medicines are unavoidable, and helpful, and
yeah, of course, this is not a sort of a bash on Western medicine. It does a great job in saving people's lives, but there are a lot of things that are simply seem to be getting worse, especially within like mental health issues. The amount of people that are suffering from anxiety and depression, and these kind of issues can be massively improved with mindfulness techniques to start off with.
Yeah, there's the thing is, we live in an age, don't we, where information is really plentiful. And you can Google anything you want and you'll find tons out there. It's whether the information is reliable or not. So I think it's always important to see a credible therapist, and whether that's a nutritional therapist or a functional medicine practitioner or a health coach, or some, knowing that someone's well trained. The training I did in functional medicine in June in the States was through the Institute of Functional Medicine, and really they are the leading body that are training people worldwide. And on their website, there's a database of practitioners, so you can find anyone in your area. And really, it's what I'm finding is that I'm building a sort of a network of people. So if I have a patient who I think will benefit from mindfulness, then I have 2 or 3 people who I have tried and tested and been to their classes, and I know I can vouch for them. And if I need someone to see a nutritional therapist, I have a good working colleague whose information and training and credibility I'm happy with. So I think it's about approaching someone who has the network, who can then feed into other services. And I think that's where I see myself evolving, because I seem to have a very big network of people in all professions, but I seem to find people quite well. And there's certain things that are within my remit, but I wouldn't hesitate to refer on to a health coach or someone if that was the kind of approach somebody needed, really, if it was outside of my scope. But I do think the more we tell GPs that we want this approach, the more they will be encouraged to go and source the information and maybe come along to my functional forum meetup and learn a bit more. Really, that's it. Driving from the patient forward, really.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's power of the people, really, isn't it? If the people demand it, then in the end, that's what we've got to receive. Now, I will post all the links of how you can get in contact with Linda on the show notes of this video, so you can get access to her if you've got more questions. I also wanted to touch on how you deal with, and using mindfulness and conscious parenting in your life, because you're a busy, hard-working woman. You've got full days. You've got 2 young kids who demand a lot of your time. How do you how do you fit it all in? Because I do, I work with women who want to have, career prospects. They want to keep fit and healthy. So what would be your top tips on like how you manage to cram it all in?
Yeah, I do have a lot on my plate. I have a lot of plate spinning. So my girls are young; they're 5 and 6, and I'm on my own with them. I'm a single mum, and I have a job, and I've done 4 courses this year that have all involved coursework, and yeah, I'm constantly spinning plates. I think one of the big revelations for me from the mindfulness point of view is that there's no such thing as multitasking. All we ever do is serially monotask, and that's not
just
really
not do it very well.
yeah, we don't do it well at all. So so I really do try now to give my full presence, attention to whatever I am doing at that moment. And if that's cooking, well, maybe I cheat. I sometimes listen to a podcast.
Yeah, I was going to say I listen to podcasts when I'm cooking.
Yeah. So I guess it's the balance between things that require my full attention. They get my full and undivided attention.
Yeah.
And that goes for children too, because the more that I try to do other things while I'm with the kids, while the kids are running around, the more they seem to demand extra attention from me.
Completely. Behaviour goes out of the window when you're trying to do other stuff, but as soon as you give them your full attention, behaviour's just a huge,
Absolutely. And letting them know that, I am listening, I am here, I hear what you're saying, let's do what we can to deal with it, to address it. And once we've done that, you need to go back to what you're doing and I need to go back to what I'm doing. And, my kids are just getting to the stage now where I can say, Mummy needs 5 minutes time out. I need time, especially when they're playing up and, they're getting hyper, and summer holidays, they've been just so active and so energetic. And sometimes it's a case of, I just need 10 minutes of time to myself. I think self-care is really, really important. And whilst I have a really full-on 5 days a week, I have 2 evenings a week where my children are with their dad, and I make sure that I look after myself in that time, and I try to do relaxation and self-care things like going to a meditation class or going to a sound bath or going to just to socialize with friends, just having that me time, and making sure that's incorporated into the week all week. I also really try and get my morning. I've started reading The Miracle Morning.
Oh yes, I love it. I'm huge on morning routine.
Yeah, and some of it I was already doing, but again, it's just finding ways. So my latest thing is my bike's on a turbo trainer, and I'm gonna do my TED Talk or podcast or social media or whatever in the morning while I'm on the bike, because I've only got 24 hours like everybody else does, and there's a lot of demands in that time. The other thing I do with demands, our phones are constantly pinging, and I often switch it on to silent or switch notifications off. Quite a few apps I've turned off notifications, but I also will respond immediately if it suits me. But I have no hesitation anymore about leaving emails and things and replying when I've got half an hour to sit and do it in a block. Because I think we achieve so much more when we're focused on that one thing for a while.
Yeah, and it goes back down to multitasking. When you're flipping between emails and doing this and that, it's not effective. You get 30 minutes, you reply to all your emails. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think ignoring our phone once in a while is good. We go camping a bit in the summer, and we aim to try and go somewhere where there's no signal. I think that's a real recharge and a real reset, because it then filters into life when we get back to normality, because you start to think, I coped for 5 days without Facebook.
That's it. I'm huge. I mean, on retreats, my next retreat is an unplugged retreat, so we're encouraging people to put the phone down. And I know it's just such a big barrier. I mean, I love, I'm on social media all the time, and I love it, but it is it's calming, it's healing to just switch off, forget about it, and connect with the people that are in front of you.
And I really value silence a lot more now than I probably ever did before. I remember when I was a kid and I'd get in my mum's car and I'd put the radio on and she'd go, turn that down, I need quiet.
Mm,
And now I'm that mum.
yeah, yeah.
And while if I'm having time with the music on, then that's cool. But there's times when if I'm going to read, I used to read with music in the background, and now I don't. If I
Oh
read, I'm
no.
reading silent, you know. And I'll often, when the children aren't around, I'll do whatever I need to do in the house in silence, because that's just my reflective time for the day, really. That's my time to ground myself and rebalance and, yeah, get my energy levels boosted.
Indeed, indeed. Well, I love that, and I think you've given so many great insights to not just parenting but into the world of functional medicine. So massive thank you for joining me today, and like I say, I'll post all the links so people can get in touch with you, and we shall look forward to seeing the release of your new website and what's to come next from you.
Thank you. Yeah, exciting times ahead, I think.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Okay, so have an awesome day, and
I
I shall
will.
speak to you
Bye-bye.
soon.
Speak to you soon. Enjoy the sunshine.